On this episode of the podcast, I'm talking about the Last Blockbuster. Hello everyone, and thanks for listening to the podcast. I'm your host, Betty. This is a very special podcast because I'm going to be talking about, like I mentioned in the introduction, I'm going to be talking about the Last Blockbuster. I'm not going to give too much away from the documentary because that's the whole point of this podcast, is because I want y'all to go out and watch that documentary. But I am going to give y'all some of my general thoughts on, the subject. I'm also going to read some of their about section on their website, and then I'll leave the link to their website in the descriptions because I want y'all to go and check that out too. Me personally, I actually bought 2 t-shirts, 2 membership cards, and a keychain. My husband, I gave him the keychain and his t-shirt and a membership card, and I kept a membership card for myself and a t-shirt because I wanted to support this little Blockbuster because they need all the support they can get. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read a little bit of their about section, and then I'm going to give y'all some of my memories about Blockbuster and, put my thoughts into it. And then I've got some feedback. So I'm really excited about all of that. So anyway, let's get into the Blockbuster story. It says, in 2010, Blockbuster Corporation filed for bankruptcy. The once giant video store chain had fallen from over 9,094 stores in 2004 to a mere 1,700 struggling corporate locations. By April 2011, they were being auctioned off, and the winning bid of $320 million went to Dish Network, a satellite TV provider. Slowly, the new operator began closing corporate-owned stores, and in January of 2014, the final Blockbuster corporate location closed. This left only a few franchise locations around the world, and at the end of March 2019, only one store remained, our store in Bend, Oregon. Okay, so like I said at the top of this episode, I'm not gonna, go into a whole rundown of that documentary because I want y'all to go watch it. But I am gonna, give y'all what Blockbuster meant to me growing up. I'm gonna give y'all what a typical weekend looked like for me. I'm gonna also talk about how I can't believe how much my mom actually spent on VHS tapes. Because I didn't realize, they were that expensive until I watched this documentary. Because, that's the kid in me. I didn't know about financial stuff back then. So, and then also, if Blockbuster was still around, would I still go? So I'm going to, kind of highlight some of those key points. So, first of all, Blockbuster, for me as a kid, that was, and this is probably going to bleed into the next subject that I have written down here. So Blockbuster for me, if anybody knows me, I'm a huge movie buff. I have all of the DVDs of all the Avengers movies. I have, all of the Lord of the Rings movies. I have all the Star Wars movies, you name it, I probably have it. So I love movies, what can I say? So when on a weekend, a typical weekend for me, we would go, I would go to the skating rink and hang out with my buddies and stuff, and we would hang out there. And then afterwards, we would go to the local Blockbuster and we'd rent 5 or 6 movies and stay up all night eating candy and junk food and all of this. That was a typical weekend. So yeah, Blockbuster, really impacted my life a lot in my childhood. And if y'all listen to my Cobra Kai podcast, I talk about, Karate Kid. It comes up quite a bit. And that was one of the first VHSs we ever had. And I talk about it now, it's nostalgic and everything, and it is. I did not realize how much a VHS tape cost back then. And after watching this documentary, it makes so much more sense to me that, that was the only one we had. We had that one, Pete's Dragon, and The Sound of Music. And looking back on it, I don't know why my mom spent that much money on that movie, to be honest. I mean, do I love it that much to spend $100 on it? Probably not. Sound of Music, I would. In a heartbeat. I mean, that's probably worth it today, if not more. But, it really makes you appreciate your parents, the sacrifices they actually made to keep you entertained. So, yeah, but again, like I said, with Blockbuster, with it coming out, they gave you a platform to be able to go and rent these movies and, be able to have, more of a selection than just, 2 or 3 movies. Like I had 2 or 3 movies at home and we ran them into the ground, that's because that's all we had. But, then we'd go to Blockbuster and we'd be able to get more movies. So yeah, Blockbuster was awesome back then. So I wasn't a big gamer, but, my husband is. Or he still is. And he talks about his memories about his Blockbuster experience. He would go and rent the video games. And, that was easy for them. Because even, I had a Nintendo growing up. But I had one game. No, I had 2. I'm sorry. I had 2 games. I had Mario Brothers and I had Tetris. And that was it. Because, they were so expensive. So we would go to the Blockbuster and we would rent the video games. And like my husband, he would rent video games. And if he couldn't beat them, he would just re-rent them. But I've heard a lot of people say that, they would rent the video games and, the late fee thing kind of sucked for them because they'd have to take it back before they could beat it. So, yeah. But if you watch that documentary, they took the late fees off, if y'all can remember right. And that was one of the problems that they had with their business strategy. So, but I don't want to get, like I said, I want y'all to go watch that documentary. So I'm not really going to go into too much detail. I'm going to tell y'all my life experiences with Blockbuster. So if Blockbuster was still around, yes, I probably would still go because I'm one of those types of people that, I like to have the physical copy in my hand. I like a book, you have all those, on our smartphones and on our smart devices, we can read a book just on the Kindle app or whatever. But for me personally, I love the smell of a book. I love the feel of a book. I love to have something in my hand. So, I do read, the occasional, ebook and, audiobook or whatever, but I like to have a physical book in my hand every once in a while. Sometimes I'll be feeling like, I really want to hold this. So I will take down one of my physical books that I have and I will read. That's the same with movies, with the VHSs, that it was something to hold in your hand. So I would probably, if Blockbuster was still around, I probably would still go, or any rental store for that matter. I mean, because I live in a small Texas town and we don't have any kind of bookstores or anything. And the only place we can get any kind of movies or any kind of books is if we go to our local Walmart or our local Target or whatever. But we don't really have that place to go anymore to get, a movie or a book. Like I said, we had a Hastings and it got, they went bankrupt.